Hello, everybody. This is Kaous Games. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about game played recently, Tales of Berseria. Now, I know Tales of games have a very long line to them. This is the first Tales I've actually played all the way through. It's not the first one I've owned. I had Tales of Hearts on the Vita. Haven't played it at all yet. It's been backlogged and playing other stuff. So it suffered the fate of pretty much all my handhelds. Pretty much, I have so many great handheld titles. Just the platform gets overshadowed most of the time by the fact that it's just not on a console. I'm a console dude. I like to have the big screen going, and it takes a special game on occasion to get me to play those type of games. But I digress. So yes, Tales of Berseria, my first real Tales of experience. From what I understand, it's a good place to start. It's a prequel to Tales of Berseria, I hear. So, my impressions of the game were overall pretty positive, I have to say. In a lot of ways, it's what I was hoping the most recent Star Ocean would have been, with a compelling story and so it felt like scope was in it, even though not as much scope as what you'd expect in like a Star Ocean game, obviously going from the interplanetary. But just obviously this type of game, the way it's in handles in battle, I'm gonna compare it to Star Ocean because that's what I had the most experience with this type of style of game. So I will say it had a really good story. It's a simple story. Some ways predictable, but it takes an approach to things that you don't see often. Like for the most of the early portions of the game, and well into the halfway point, or in past, you're literally like playing as the villain of the game, and as a main character, Velvet, and which is good because she's a very interesting character. And the thing I like to see about main characters or protagonists is a lot of character development. I'm a sucker for character development. She has it. She starts off the game one way, and then she's totally different, and then something, some obstacle happens to her, and then she has to adjust, having been met with something that just totally wrecks the way she was thinking before. It was really a lot of interesting character development for her. She's an interesting character. Badass, I liked her fights. I rarely switched off of her when I was in combat. She's the most interesting character in the game to me. I just loved her fighting style, the demon arm, and the retractable sword. That was a badass fighting style. I mean, I really enjoyed her as a character. A lot of times she's broody, but there's other layers to her. Her quest was interesting. I love the villain, Artorias. I'm more of a fan of the villain. I mean, while I find a pure destruction incarnate villain entertaining in most cases, I don't find them as interesting as villains who you can see their side of things. And I definitely don't like them as much as villains that you can kind of side with. And for most of this game, I sided with the main villain, Artorias. I mean, his vision, his vision at first was really, solid. It seemed like he was making good things happen in the world. And you're playing as a character just trying to wreck his shit, like mercilessly because of what he did to her. And you're like wrecking town. Like there's one point in the game when you wreck a whole town. Spoiler alert. Sorry. Their economy, you just wreck it because she's trying to do something to get to him. And like you're just literally just playing as the villain of the game. Obviously, it falls into JRPG tropes, though. Towards the end, as I expected it would. There was a couple of plot points I saw coming from a mile away, even before they even were trying to reveal it. I don't know if they were trying to hide it or not. They probably were, but you find it out if you pay attention. From the very first part of the game, that she's already on a misunderstanding to begin with. She didn't really quite know what was going on, but even though they don't quite tell you, I picked it up. I'm like, oh well, she she already misunderstanding what happened here. She doesn't know the full truth, and then they lay that truth on her later in the game, and it almost crushes her. But I already knew it because I was paying attention. But I will say that ultimately it's a really solid game. It's still entertaining. I like the character, the cast, the supporting cast. It's like the main villain was good until, then obviously the tropes start happening towards the end of the game, and then it ends, in a way you expect most JRPGs, and you have your tropes like the final boss area ascent, your over the top JRPG final ascent boss areas. Every JRPG ever has them, and this is no different. And just another JRPG trope, they make you fight like a zillion bosses before you can get to. They make you fight a ton of bosses in the final area. I don't know if they make you. I thought you had to do it, so I did it before. So I'm not sure if you can actually finish the game without doing it. But I did it. So you have a lot of these tropes that hit, but it doesn't really take away from the game. And ultimately, I like to say is tropes are tropes for a reason. If they don't work, they wouldn't be tropes. So it does give you an interesting perspective early on in the game. It starts to trope out towards the end. And I'll say it's a pretty solid experience for sure. Not the best game I've ever played. There are points in the story with the main character's motivation that you become questionable. Or at least I did. I was like, wait, that doesn't make sense. That she's been doing this the whole time. They lay this on her. And then she's gonna still try to stay the course when the course has been broken. I don't feel like they did a good job at adjusting her motivation properly. But that's just me. Other than that, though, it's a great game. If you are a fan of I don't know if someone knows the style of combat this game has, let me know in the comments. But I'll say Star Ocean-esque style combat. The combo systems are great. It's a load of fun to play. Not too difficult though. Maybe, but it's still pretty good. Definitely, if you're a fan of JRPG, especially the more animated, like an anime style, this is definitely a game you'll want to pick up. It's worth the money. I tell you that. Anyway, until next time, it's been Kaous with Kaous Games. Until next time, gamers, game on.